rice varietal release database. And so these numbers are probably the most important that you should get from the table. So for the characteristic high yield, the range of values where average yield was 5.9 to 6.1, and the maximum yield was 8.7 to 10.6. For softness, the amylose content was at 21, and for disease resistant, they were disease resistant to BPH and GLH moderately and blast. So this is a bar graph showing the rating of stress tolerance and agronomic traits. So the farmers were asked to rate the agronomic and tolerance traits from a 1 to 5 rating, 1 being the least important and 5 being the most important. So during both the dry season and wet season, the farmers ranked heavy grains and high yielding the most important. They also rated drought resistant the most important during the dry season. Resistant to lodging, flood resistant, short duration, and sturdy spicklets were rated 1 during both the dry season and wet season. So this is a bar graph of the rating of grain quality traits. So again, the farmers were asked to rate these grain quality traits on a rating scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the most important and 1 being the least important. So it was said that the white and translucent, high demand and marketable, and high milling recovery were all rated the most important traits. Softness expands when cooked, and then long slender grains and grains don't easily break were rated around 4. So it was determined from the ranking test that the top rice characteristics preferred by farmers was high yielding, high demand and marketable, high milling recovery, heavy grains, translucent and white, and drought resistant during the dry season. So when asking the farmers what traits need to be improved of current seeds, the farmers replied that there should be a higher yield, a higher price for paddy, a lower cost of seed, and the less use of fertilizer. And I really didn't know much about rice farming when I came into this internship, so I really wanted to ask the farmers what challenges they encounter with rice farming to kind of understand more. So during the wet season, they say they have the most problem with typhoon, the crop submergence due to the rain. They also have problems with pests, rats and snails. And actually the farmers took us to the field and they actually showed the devastating effects of snails to the rice crop. And I was really able to visually see how devastating it is to the rice crop. And then low yield is a problem, and shortage of labor with transplanting is also a problem. During the dry season, the pests, rats are a major problem, and the stem borer when planted late is also a problem. So the summary of the results for this study was that the NSIC RC222 is preferred by farmers during both the wet and dry seasons. Also, the most important consideration of farmers in selecting varieties is rice yield, high yield, sorry. And the preferred varieties of amylose content is between 20.5 to 24. So for further work, the rice samples collected in this study will be sent to the grain quality and nutrition lab for analysis. And also, these results will be matched with rice preferences of other actors in the rice value chain as well. So the application of this project is that the results from this project will be combined of those of other surveys conducted by the market research team, and the combined analyses will be provided to the rice breeders of IRRI so they can actually include priority traits into new varieties of rice they are developing. So I also had other really interesting experiences here during my internship. I was actually able to go on the Cebu City trip with Neil and Tita Lina. And there I was actually able to observe interviews of retailers and wholesalers and suppliers. And that really gave me a good feel of how you should approach an interviewee and just how you should interview them. So, because Tita Lina is so experienced, I really learned a lot from her during this trip. And also, I was actually able to have a tour of the grain quality lab, and I was able to see how impurities of rice are sorted from the samples. I was also able to see how physical characteristics are analyzed of the rice samples, and also measuring rice expansion after cooking and measuring amylose content. So that was really cool to see the science behind all of this. So here are some pictures from some of the cultural experiences that I had. So this is a picture of me on a farm in Nueva Ecija province, and I was actually able to observe them farming. So I really admired their work because it was super hot that day, and they were farming for like so many hours. So I was really amazed at how diligent they were with their farming techniques. And as well as here's a picture of me and Tita Lita at a dam in Nueva Ecija. Banyan Dam, and it was very beautiful. It's a source of irrigation, a source of water for people in Nueva Ecija province. And here's a picture of me with Tita Lina's family in Cebu City. She was nice enough to take me with their family to a beach resort, so I was able to experience that. And I was kind of like a landlocked territory. There's not many big bodies of water, so this was a really cool experience for me. The water was really blue, so it was cool. And here's me in Cebu City on a tricycle. This is not a very major mode of transportation in Iowa, so it was cool to see. I'm going to miss those a lot. And this is me. This is one of the highlights of my experience in Nueva Ecija. I really wanted to see the kids in the school, the farming area, and I was actually able to meet with the principal, and he was telling me about how kids would walk 3 to 5 miles a day to reach school, and it really put things into perspective for me because I often take having available resources for education for granted. I only have to travel in a car to school, but these kids walk miles to get to school, so it really put things into perspective for me. And here's me with a carabao. I heard you can't not take a picture with the carabao if you go to Nueva Ecija province. And here are me with the rice fields. And I'm going to miss this a lot when I go back to Iowa, the rice fields. So I would never have had this incredible internship experience if it weren't for the International Rice Research Institute and the World Food Prize allowing me to intern here. And I would also like to sincerely thank the whole Social Science Division family for welcoming me and making me feel like I had a place here. It was a really amazing experience. I would like to sincerely thank my supervisor, Dr. Alice Laborte. She was always open to my questions. I didn't come in with any social science research background, and she was always open with any of my questions, and she helped me so much with this presentation, and she taught me a lot about the basics of social science research. And I would like to sincerely thank Tita Lina. During the field, she always made sure I had enough food, and she was like a second mother to me because I'm a vegetarian. So sometimes it can kind of be hard to find vegetarian food here. So she really helped me a lot with that, and her translating, and she's really experienced with interviewing, so I learned a lot from her. I would like to thank Tita Ludi and Tita Lydia for also being so welcoming and helping me throughout this whole internship experience. I'd also like to thank Neil for translating in the Cebu City trip, as well as always being open. He taught me how to actually work the wheeling, whiteness and milling meter, so that was really nice of him. I would also like to thank Claire for always being there, giving me suggestions, even with this presentation, and just for anything. She was always there to answer any questions. I'd also like to finally thank Lisa Fleming, who gave me this internship opportunity. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Aparna, for that very interesting presentation and for sharing your experience here while you're here. So, any questions?
Have you tried asking plant breeders what their criteria are for breeding what they breed?
Oh, did I try asking plant breeders what their criteria was for what they breed? I didn't really have that chance. I was only here for 8 weeks, so I could only focus on the farmers and the consumers. But if I stayed here for longer, I would definitely have done that. That would be really interesting.
ask them before you leave.
Sure.
Hi Aparna, thank you for the excellent presentation. You don't sound like a high school graduate. You sound like a really pro. I know, high school student. And one more fact is, she was born in Ames when I was working there after my PhD, so she's pretty young. But wonderful work, I think. My question is, you got exposed to social science, some field work, and IRRI in general, what we do. How does it influence your future career thing? That's the reason we're here, to find out more. Yeah.
So I guess this experience has really influenced my future career path. But before I came here, I really wanted to enter the medical field. But right now, I feel like maybe if I do a minor in global resource systems or something related to that, it has definitely increased my interest in agriculture as well as, I guess, social science research. And I really realized the importance of agriculture in improving, I guess, food in the world, because that's a major problem. And often, agriculture is kind of not a very well-known field. And when I grew up, I guess, agriculture wasn't a very, a field you go to work in. So not many people talk about it as much, but getting this exposure really told me how important it is in the world. So yeah, definitely. Maybe a minor in global research systems.
When I raised my hand to ask you a question, I didn't know you were a high school student. Okay. So usually my questions are tough, so I'm not sure whether I just wanted to know, what is your research question? What was your research question?
Okay, I wanted to figure out the rice preferences of farmers and consumers in Nueva Ecija province. So if we figure out the rice preferences of them, then we can give this back to the rice breeders of IRRI so they can include these traits into new varieties they're developing.
What was your hypothesis?
Hypothesis. Okay, so I thought that consumers would focus more on grain quality traits, more of softness and I guess whiteness and translucency, whereas farmers would focus on more agronomic traits like high yield and I guess, yeah, high yield.
And what is your finding?
The final conclusion? So I figured that through the study that farmers preferred also the softness of the rice characteristics, and they also preferred it to have high yield, and consumers preferred the price the most.
Did you take into account the fact that farmers are also consumers?
Farmers are, yeah. So I asked them about that in the survey. Do you buy rice from markets? But they said that they actually set aside some rice from their harvest, and they mill that from miller traders, I think. So that's, yeah, they're also consumers. But they preferred a higher price for the rice because they're selling it. So.
Hi. The most interesting finding in your presentation to me was that some consumers buy rice every day.
Yes.
Instead of buying for a week or so. Why is that? Do you find any differences between among the consumers who buy rice every day and others?
Definitely.
And what's the difference in their preference of the rice between those who buy rice every day and others? And another question is there any seasonal difference, seasonal variations of the rice, or the price is fixed over the season? I guess that the consumer's preference, if there is seasonality, may change over the seasons.
Sure. So I was actually also very interested. At the beginning, I didn't understand why consumers would buy such small quantities of rice every day. And I asked Dr. Laborte about this, and what I understood was that they don't get paid that much every day. So they get paid, I guess, at the end of the day. So they're only able to buy rice for that certain amount of day. And that was totally different from America, because when my family buys rice, we buy big bags of rice at these grocery stores. But they don't have enough money to buy that much quantity. So that's why they buy small amounts of rice every day. And So for the dry season, wet season question, so I think during the wet season, if I understood correctly, there's a lower yield. So maybe rice prices go up. So these NFA rice varieties, what I understood is that they stay constant. The prices stay constant throughout the seasons. So that's why I guess consumers find that brand reliable, and they don't kind of get doubt from the retailers that they're changing the prices. So that's why they kind of stick to the NFA rice, and it's a cheaper variety as well.
So this timing that you conducted interview is
It was during July, mid-July.
July meaning I don't know the system. So that means where the price is high or price is low?
The price is high.
Price is high.
It's not actually for you, but maybe for future research. Because what I noticed is that all your respondents are in the lower bracket of income, only about 240 to less than 300 pesos per day. And I don't think that represents the general consumers.
So
Maybe in another intern or somebody else should do a follow-up to include those that income is higher than that. And then also for farmers, none of the farmers have other sources of income, non-agricultural sources. But in our findings, many farmers have already off-farm sources of income. But in your case, you only choose farmers for doing agricultural work. Not for you, but for future research.
Actually, though, the work of Aparna is just one portion of the work that is being done in this area. So there's already an urban survey that is conducted in the cities, and the rural survey is just it's for 2 markets. So it's more of chance who went there at that particular time when they were there. So those are the people that were interviewed.
When you collected rice samples from the consumers, and then you brought them back here for analysis of their quality traits, is it possible when you bring them back here to also identify which variety the consumers have purchased?
So I understood that you have to actually send that to the grain quality and nutrition lab for analysis, and I understood there's a backlog or something. So it's taking some time for them to get to these samples. So.
Actually, it's different to find the variety unless you do DNA thing. Because usually here they mix the varieties. So